Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good, as always. As you can see, I'm trying the right angle. I usually shoot the videos from the left. Let's see how it goes from the right. Instead of tea, I'm drinking kombucha. Mmm, kombucha. It's my favorite. One of my favorites. Ah. Anyway, I want to record something. I just noticed something, how mind works and how soul works, and the difference, and how things are quite the opposite actually. The way it works in the soul and the way it works in the mind. And sometimes there might be a lot of confusions of like, what kind of principle to follow. Like, is it this or is it that? And a lot of these spiritual principles do not apply in the mind. I think somebody asked me about like the selflessness and selfishness. Um, and like the best answer that I can give uh, to anybody is that it appears to be that in the soul level, the heart level, the complete and total selflessness is the way. It is about dissolving the self that that incoherent self, that ego. It is about not having it, the observer becoming observed. We talked about all this. And if you are interested in booking a session, book a session. That calibration world. It's all about um, calibrating that incoherence until it's gone, and then there's a real you that is alive, starts bubbling as joy. You know, so we know that part. But what about the mind? Because the world is still happening. You still need to play this game. You still need to have you know things to do in this world and manage this world. All these different layers, all these different hive minds. How do you function in the world without becoming part of it? Right? Like if in the heart you just want to be continuous whole, in the mind you need to be very very sharply um, bounded away from these hive minds. You see, so the more open in the heart you become, the more discerning in the mind you become. It seems like it works that way. You can't be just open in the mind, because then all these um, you know belief systems start seeping in, and you're having these thoughts, and it's just not going to work, because um, you're going to be distracted. Your energy is going to be leaking, so you won't be able to do any kind of alchemy, because you're going to be in the mind using it for some nonsensical reasons, thinking that it's important. Okay, that is just when you get caught in one of those hive mind loops. It is better to like spend the day, if it's a strong alchemical process, to spend the day basic, read a book, maybe watch a good movie, eat a good food, sit in the garden, like, you know um a hippie day. Shh, okay. uh, I work too, okay. I have some work days too. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that it is better to do that and be alchemizing energies, which becomes like an, you know you don't want to sit like in one place, although sometimes, like, if the energy is quite strong and you're like, you need to put all this focus, and it's like, yeah, sure, you can sit in one place. Why not? Preferably outside, in where there's a lot of oxygen, nature, animals. And But then when the joy starts streaming through you, it's like, doesn't matter what you do, you can still be calibrating and enjoying whatever you do. And in fact, like, you kind of want to get used to being able to calibrate if it's necessary at any kind of circumstances that's going on. Because sometimes, like, if you're like, your body's very active, your attention may be out of habit moving away from there. Not that you're not supposed to be focusing on what you're doing, in the body. You should, but it's supposed to be parallel, you know, processing. Adequate attention still remains there because the enjoyment has to stay there. You see, if you just move too much energy into doing, the enjoyment goes away, and then you're like, oh shit, I got caught. And you see what I'm trying to do. So you got to spread it all up throughout. Anyway, so my answer was to that question is that be as selfless as possible in the heart and as selfish as possible in the mind. What does that mean? Um, in the mind, there totally are others. There totally are other belief systems and ideas. It's like animal kingdom, if you will. The astral mind is full of entities, thought forms, and hive minds, and they bind to, like, okay, this is the belief system of this idea, and then the people group based on that, and they're always going to look for the ways to inject that belief system into anybody that they encounter. You see, and it even happens like subconsciously, like if I'm in a big group of people, these thoughts are start entering, like all the sort of insecurity thoughts start trying to enter me. So my approach is to be completely discerning and not to open to anything, any thought that comes from the outside. Categorically, it's just basically saying that there's nothing that can come from the outside that is of value to me, which is what I mean by being selfish. Because all beautiful thoughts that are of value to you will bubble up from your soul and will be given to you directly for you specifically in the most appropriate way. So you become the mind becomes so strong that you cannot be hypnotized by these external belief systems. Okay? You become resistant to this type of hypnosis. Because if you're not resistant to this type of hypnosis, then they can suggest all these sorts of things and use you as this, cuckoo's nest, basically, to manifest the things of their agenda. So the answer to that is a complete and categorical no to any suggestions from the outside. Okay? I'm talking about from the masculine perspective right now. Because from the feminine perspective, it's different. A man must be solidly resistant to bullshit. A woman too, of course, but through other means. A woman becomes resistant to bullshit when she opens up to the the universal mind and not the hive, any kind of these hive minds. She becomes resistant, but it's like a different process. There's a complete boundary in man's mind. And by the way, if there is such mind that exists, that is completely isolated from all the bullshit, and there's like, the more people are like that, it becomes even impossible for the woman to discover, in astral, as opposed to reality, in the mind, that there is something that is of like a beautiful mind that is worth opening up to, because you're always going to have to follow some sort of belief system. And so what I call this conceptual system. I don't call it belief system to differentiate, because it's not the same. It's not conflict driven. It is something awesome driven. So, and if a man brings this type of mind in on this planet, then there is a possibility for the woman to access this. I'm talking about, of course, like, universal uh, perspective. um, but of course then it comes out in the personal as well. It is like that. So we all ought to play our roles the way we decided to play, before we came into this game. And I said before about this wrong idea of spirituality, that you have to become sort of like a half-half, like a hermaphrodite, right? No, it is incorrect. It is an abomination. You say this is the Luciferian way. But the right way is, you have to become, if you're a man, then you become an alchemist, and if you're a woman, then you become a devotee. And the calibration process is similar. The things are there the same. However, as a woman, you will find more that to go through all of this, it will require more of a surrender, side of awareness, of the expansiveness and fluidity. And for the man, you'll find that this game will be challenging you more on the courage side, attention side, which is um, this solid and contractive force, and penetrating vibratory force. I'm just using these words for now, because I've discovered these phenomena. I don't know if they should be called phenomena, but I discovered these four forces. I discovered them through my own experience, feeling them out, exploring it, not through knowledge from the outside. Gnosis, by the way, does not mean knowledge. It means wisdom, which is what people misunderstand sometimes. These sayings that, like, through seeking knowledge you will accomplish liberation. That is the opposite. It's ridding of all the knowledge, in the digging wisdom is where all of this comes from. Okay, so what do we have now? And you find yourself that, as a man, this calibration game will be requiring you to grow your philosopher's stone. You see that neutron star. And as a woman, you'll find that this calibration is keep on requiring you to become more of a void, nothing, openness, the holy grail. So it's asking you to become, all masculine and all feminine. By the way, when I say all masculine and all feminine, I don't mean 100%, because 100%, that would be like, either tyranny or chaos kind of thing. I mean exactly of what masculinity is defined by this metaphysics. Like the yang has the dot of yin in there, and you see what I'm trying to say. And whatever that ratio is between that, uh, you know, straight lines and rigidity, and the curves, whatever that ratio is what the masculinity is. And Metatron cube, by the way, is that it is a depiction of philosopher's stone. It's depiction of the finished work, the great work. So a lot of people misunderstand that. It is not like the blueprint for the entire reality. It is also not something dark that not you're not supposed to be like worshiping. Well, nothing's supposed to be worshipped, but a lot of times I see people right now saying like, "Oh, Metatron cube is bad," because um, for whatever reasons that they said that it's complete bullshit and it's nonsense. Metatron cube means something, and it's not an angel. It's not, like there's a lot of nonsense there. It means something. You know what it means? If you look at the seed of life, the germ of life, the flower of life, and then the fruit of life, you'll see that there's an appearance of Metatron is appearing there throughout all of them. Sometimes it's called like Merkaba, like which is what is Merkaba means. It means soul, mind, and body all together working in unison. And that appearance of that ideal um, geometry that penetrates through from the source to the physics through the body is that Metatron's cube. And Metatron's cube is something, is philosopher's stone. That's what it is. And it's masculine. That's what is accomplished uh, in the soul of a man. And I, that's the thing. I'm just gonna say something. I know people, they always try to break these laws, and because then they get that liberty of ego, but jail the soul. And that's why I have to say, and this is a metaphysical truth. This is not arguable. It's a law. Masculinity is masculinity. Femininity is femininity. You see, and at this level, you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose your gender at this level. Again, like at the mind level and things like this, where things are kind of easily programmable, those things can be flexible. Like a woman could be completely based in her feminine essence and do a masculine task, considered to be masculine task. It's totally fine, not a problem. But at the core, if you have chosen uh, in this game to play a man or a woman, and of course I'm talking in a I'm only applying this to the souls who are actually engaging in this type of thing, and then you will find that there's no other way for you. If you are doing this work, you're gonna find that it is asking, the reality will be asking of you to be what you really are, what you came here to do. And if you are in a masculine, this mostly going to be about wisdom, because when you acquire wisdom, love surrounds you. I said mostly because, like I said, that there are these principles that you cannot be 100% rigid, right? It has to be that perfect balance between when it needs to be rigid, it's rigid. When it needs to be flowing, it's flowing. That's the beauty of this philosopher's stone, that it's alive, but it's a crystal too. So it's like whenever it needs to be the hardest thing in the universe, it's the hardest thing in the universe. Whenever it needs to be the most flowy thing in the universe, it's the most flowy thing in the universe. You see. So that's basically what we find, at the essence. But now going back into the mind, because it works so different. We don't want to confuse those two. And if you confuse those two, then you become super weak in this reality. And then you become this like, oh guys, why can't we just all be together at peace? And yeah, it's like, nah, it doesn't work like that. You have to establish new frameworks at the root level, at the governmental level, at whatever the mind level that needs to be established. Like, and that conceptual system, as I call it, must be so strong that it must outcompete these belief systems. It is basically have to be slaying zombies and vampires. So that conceptual system has to be very strong, and it is a war, and it is a fighting. And you can, argue that it's a type of timeline fighting. You see? It's not like that. It's like, well, who cares how the world works? I'm here just to get my enlightenment, and then just I'm out and fuck off. No, it's not like that. You have not finished the great work if you did that. Because if you finish like the soul work, but now that you had like the soul work done and you never gone into the mind, let alone the the body, you have not finished your work. And this is not to me, this is not right approach. I think it came from Plato, but this always, I don't think he meant that, because always missed in translation. Because when something comes from the source and then it's said in words and then communicated in words to other person, that does not connect to the meaning, because then another person is only functioning in the belief system, and then that's how it gets corrupted, because it needs to be coming from the meaning. You need to communicate through the meaning, and then only then the person knows what that word means. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, I don't believe that Plato said that, but they keep on quoting Plato, that he said that who cares what this world is like? Let it be crappy and miserable. You just come here, get your enlightenment, and leave. I don't believe he said that, but that's how they understood. It is not correct. You don't do that. Once you discover that, you know, philosopher's stone and whatnot, um, it's not over. You have to, now that you, now that you, now, only now you're in the position to build the mind, and the conceptual systems can withstand the time and slay belief systems. It's another art of the mind that you also need to be developing, just as much as you worked on your alchemy and theurgy. Just as much you work, this work is called thaumaturgy. You gotta be working just as much in thaumaturgy. If, like I always say, if alchemy is mystery, theurgy is art, and then thaumaturgy is science. Okay? That's it. And then of course you have physiology happening. So that's the take. Because if you wonder, it's like, what's the point of getting that joy and stopping the suffering? The point is that you can begin playing the game, and then the point is like, you have to understand what is wrong with the reality that you're in. You can't even play the game yet, because the monopoly game is rigged. So you have to change the frame, and you start looking, it's like, what frames are broken, and that would be the first order of business, which is of course the governmental systems. You would have to look at this and say, the first order of business is you have to revamp all governmental systems. And you don't, because right now, because you're functioning on a different level, you can see how the reality works. You can see how first things can be changed in the mind, and only then it changes in the physical body. So you don't throw tantrums and sort of give up, like, oh, nothing's going to happen because the government, blah, blah. It's like, nah, you're not playing this bullshit game anymore, because you know that if you change something in the astral, in the world of mind, and you create a structure that is impenetrable, and it's like, no belief system can overcome it. It's just like you build a diamond over there that nothing can crush. That conceptual system stays there and lives there, and as long as you sustain it, it will become the reality. And if you think that the first diamond, that needs to be reframing of the entire framework of the governmental systems, corporations, everything, then that's the first thing that you do. And this is already happening. Corruption is already being reduced. More and more people are behind this idea. Some people even who are like in this corruption game, and they getting this mooching, or being crook. I told you, in the Matrix there's only two archetypes: the crooks and whores. Like I don't have to waste my time like Jung did, and trying and going like, oh, every little demon is like this and this demon is like that. Who gives a fuck? One ring that rules them all. There's a feminine, you know, uh, corruption, and there's a masculine corruption. That's all I need to know, honestly. Because the answer to whatever that is always the same. It's better this way. Um, so yeah, so even the crooks, they find themselves like, oh shit, I can't get away with this shit anymore. I have to stop being a crook now. And and they think like, yeah, maybe because yeah, I was just messing things up and profiting from this. So maybe I can't do it because look, my buddies are getting jailed. This fucking pressure is coming in, and it's like I don't think I can. Like, let me just get something that is legitimate, and I'll live in peace and have my clean soul, and maybe I'll stop being neurotic and suicidal and depressive all the time because of the nasty ass shit that I'm doing with being a crook. You see? So why would crook make that decision? Because being a crook becomes too painful. Why is it being crook becomes too painful? Because there's conceptual systems that people like you and I are installing and defending and not budging on that at all. You see? Because that structure is uncorruptible. You can't bullshit your way through it. It just is. You see what I'm trying to say? You see what's going on? And this is why these laws are going to be changed that are corrupt. Um, and all of these loopholes are going to be closed off more and more and more. It is because of metaphysical laws of consciousness. This is why it's going to be done. Yes, of course, like if you can participate in the process, participate in the process. But if you're doing this type of work, the reality is going to be changing anyway. You see? You gotta keep on sustaining that structure, that concept of holistic society and how everything needs to be balanced, and you're not moving from to one side from one extreme to another extreme. Everything has its own place. This argument whether it's communism, capitalism, socialism, they all have their own place. In a family, there is a communism. So run family like a communism. You're gonna have a great family. In the friend circle, run friend circle like a socialism. You're gonna have great social circle. In a business, run business like a capitalism. You're gonna have a great business. In a manufacturing, run manufacturing like it's a fascism. You're gonna have great manufacturing process. Okay, all of these ideologies is not about fighting which one is right. It is about putting it where it belongs. That's what the holistic means. Holistics. I like to say holistics with an X, just to play on words on the matrix, because matrix is what's wrong with the world. Holistics is everything that's right with the world. But you see, the world is not going to be perfect, but at least you're going to be running on the framework where the monopoly game is not rigged. So it is not like you're playing monopoly game and unbeknownst to you, when you win everything, that's going to be taken from you and then you're going to be put in jail. You see? So you don't want to fucking play this game. You say, no, I'm not going to play this monopoly game where the winner is actually the loser. Let's revamp this game completely, and only then will be worth playing it. And that's what I recognize what's wrong with the entire world and the first order of business that needs to be addressed. And then, like I said, the challenges don't go away, but at least you have a framework to deal with it. At least you have some encouragement that like it's worth going for it. It's worth fighting, because when you fight, you do your best, everything, and in the end, you're just like, what was all for? That's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to end up in despair after the victory. You see, that's it. You see what I'm trying to say? This is what like I've been seeing. This pattern. I'm like, the most prevalent pattern is like, what's all for if it's all fucked up? What's it all for? But it's not supposed to be like that. The game is played because you play, you win, you're happy. You can see why you did this. You can see that it has a good impact and it does not go to complete waste. And you see what I'm trying to say? Like, it's like somebody fighting the war, defending the way of life, and then seeing like a new generation is completely destroying and dismantling and disrespecting all the fight that you've done. This is super demoralizing. And the reason it's happening is because the framework allows this to happen. And so despair is going to continue until the framework is changed. And so now everybody's attention is supposed to be that, hey, let's build the right framework first. You see? And I know that, regular folk cannot do it, but people who legitimately can alchemize energies and understand how mind hermeticism works, how impenetrable mind should be, which is that's what I mean by being selfish, meaning that no other external information comes in, because it is a zero trust system. You understand? In the world of mind, you trust nobody, because everything that you need to know will come from the soul. And if it doesn't come from the soul, you cannot trust it. This is the only way you're going to build that uncorruptible framework. After that, then once the framework is established, then you can, as long as somebody's keep on maintaining that framework, then you can relax, because you got that, you know, you got that Godfather pattern protecting you. So then you can relax and play, and and then the trust can develop. You see, but you cannot trust anybody if the framework is corrupt. You see what I'm trying to say? So it's nice to trust people. It's nice to believe people, but this can only applicable whenever the framework is sound. In this particular situation in the Matrix, this is not a good idea. It is a horrible idea. So that should allow you to kind of go like, okay, that's, if this is true, and if I cannot trust anybody that comes from the outside, everything has to be coming from the inside. And then you listening to me saying that, say like, why aren't you saying me these things? Yes, but I'm saying you these things. It's like, don't trust me, don't believe me. Discover this everything yourself. This conclusion that I made, that to have that impenetrable mind, you must be, in other words, be completely selfish and not register anything that comes from inside. Don't believe anything, because guys, if you look at this, when people say things, they speak, for example, from fear, gossiping. There's no value there. But if somebody's so you can still listen to this person, but don't listen what the fuck they say. Everything's bullshit. Everything is bullshit what they say. But you listen with your heart. It gives you an opportunity to alchemize the energy. And it gives opportunity for the person to relax and feel better and move away from the fear and sit more in a state of love. and then have these other more coherent thoughts start coming up for them, and you did not have to do anything, you didn't have to say anything to them, because they tap into the same universal mind where these beautiful thoughts already exist. You see, no arguments, nothing. It's the, I hope I'm making sense here, because resonance is the way that you should acquire the conceptual system that works, and not a belief system. Resonance, okay, which means from the heart. So you can, for example, listen to me, and if you tune to the same frequency that I am in, all these same thoughts are available to you. But not because I said it through the words, because you synchronize to the same frequency, and the meaning that you're feeling is the exact same meaning that I am communicating, and therefore it comes from within. That information comes from within you. I didn't put the information in there, I just invoked it by being in a state of meaning and speaking the words and calibrating you in the same state. And that's how you see the same things that I do. And so this way communication, which is a type of form of telepathy, is the way to communicate without any errors and without ever needing to go into the belief system. But one particular thing about this, that concept is impenetrable to the belief system. It must be. Meaning that it has no flexibility. It has, you see, mind is symbolized as a triangle in alchemical traditions. Soul, circle; mind, triangle; body, a cube or a square. Triangle, right? Triangle is one of the most strongest geometrical structures in physics. Triangle. Completely and totally rigid. What does that mean? That means that it's impenetrable and cannot be corrupted. If you look at the diamond, you'll find a lot of triangles there too. Okay? So in your soul, you're still super flexible, and the energies are just moving, and you're letting things be the way it wants to be. You're doing the calibration, harmonization there, right? Everything is very musical, fluid, and it's just that type of world. The mind, because you have discovered that structure, is permanently that template, that blueprint that you've discovered will never change. And this is, by the way, in Metatron, that's those triangles that are being in the Metatron, because you'll see in the Metatron you'll find a lot of circles, triangles, and cubes, which means the Merkaba, which means soul, mind, and body all integrated, which is when the great work is complete. Okay? So again, my answer to the question is that this type of mind that you've discovered, born from within, gives zero fuck about any kind of other form of information. If it's not stemming from that blueprint, that template, it is considered to be bullshit. And it's rightfully so. You understand? It is not like somebody believing bullshit and defending it because they're stubborn. This is the resilience. This is the definition of the resilience. You have a full right to defend this which is obviously is, you know, does not really need you to be defending it externally. This is you defend it internally. You understand? That hardness, that, you know, when in the alchemy, sometimes these energies, they require you to resistance, because sometimes the energy is going to try to take you over. That solid, that contraction force that you apply with your consciousness, sometimes you have to do this in alchemy. It's one of the courage factors, one of the two. And so you have to that resist that energy, especially when it's trying to be a little bit too confusing, you know, and too, you gotta go and contract it. And then if you recognize that you sometimes you have to use that in alchemy, then you'll understand how to um, be resilient in the mind. When somebody speaks something, right? If it's not according to the blueprint, it's like birds chirping, you know, or birds chirping is too beautiful, but it's just basically, you know, whatever. It doesn't stick. You don't consider it, nothing. Only if it resonates to the principles, then you take it as something that is true. Very important. This conclusion is very categorical, very drastic, but every way you look at it, you will find the same thing. You know, what gives you, you know, people usually, men usually like take the belief system externally, which is corruption, defend it because that's their identity, right? And it creates these all sorts of animals and astral and entities and stuff like that. And they use their energy to defend that belief system because that's the, you know, like they're surviving, you know, and it creates that type of entity, that type of animal and astral. But there, this animal comes along that is not designed through thought and external system. It came as a blueprint directly from the source. It seems magical that somehow it can be between the, you know, the rigid and the fluid. It holds the fluidity but also rigidity when it's necessary. It's so elegant, so beautiful, it's so true that you just say, this is as sharp as it gets. It came from within, and I will defend it with my energy. And there's that war, right? There's this war versus, you know, resilience versus stubbornness. Resilience will win, of course, in the end, because resilience is impenetrable. Stubbornness keeps requiring the energy, you see, and this is why people give up, because there's no longer there's energy. Not because they want to give up, they give up because they cannot sustain that anymore, because there's another pattern that's resilient, vibrating in such a, you know, frequency that all these other ones just disappear. However, somebody has to channel that energy there, and you channel the source energy, the most powerful energy, the most, you know, powerful frequency to sustain that structure in the mind. And it's a joy for you to do this, and it's never ending because you tapped into the source. That energy will never end, so you're not worried about it, that you will ever kind of get exhausted and whatnot. And you keep defending it, but you have to, you know, like, you know, I said, like, save me from the monster and fly me to the moon. This is it. The moon is the silver, the mind is when you brought your spaceship, so to speak, right, to the moon, where the feminine principles can be alive and active, and the masculine principles are protecting it. It's protecting the innocence, so innocence can do its magic while under protection. And that is this conceptual system that we are injecting in the reality and sustaining it with our hearts until it is so. And this is the type of soul that you're never supposed to give up on. Egos, you see, this idea that is masculine, you know, to be stubborn. It is childish to be stubborn. Masculine is to go directly into the pain, the suffering, and letting it flower and face all of that. That is masculine. And something uncorruptible comes out of this, and then say that is principles of thought and a system of thought, concepts that are incorruptible, and we just have to keep on letting it more and more energy given to this system. And little by little, more people tap into this. That's the same idea that they have, and they see the same thing, and they may be in the position of power and say like, "Oh, I'm in the position of power. Reduce corruption. I know all these people who are corrupt. They're my buddies. I work with them in the government. I don't want to alienate them. I don't want to destroy them, and but maybe we can do this in a humane way where they could kind of need to ease off a little bit, little by little, and then get another alternative income which is legal and not corrupt, so they're fine and they're good." You see what I'm trying to say? Like you treat them as somebody who's just been a victim of the entity control, and then this way you can reduce the corruption without needing to shame anybody, or you will have to shame few people, lock few people up for other people to start seeing that, okay, I get the point, let's clean the house. But why these ideas are now so prevalent? It's because of this. Okay, so if everything that comes from your heart, these beautiful thoughts about how the world is supposed to be, look like, how it's supposed to function like, how your mind's supposed to function like, it gives you you save so much energy when you don't need to waste your energy on the belief systems anymore. Anything anybody says to you, and if you don't feel the resonance, like water over the duck's fat, as they say, right? So there. And this is not incorrect, because if you brought something from your soul to the mind, it will piss a lot of people off. You understand? It's like people sometimes who they're stubborn, they have this energy of like everything is rigid, but there is no beauty. This rigidity does not feel rigid and kind of blocky, and kind of, it does not feel like that. It feels like diamonds. That's how it feels. The truth feels like diamonds. Okay? And it's winning through resonance. When it's resonating a certain type of frequency, all these others disintegrate. All these belief systems disintegrate because of the resonance of this frequency. And so if any kind of like a man entertains the crook belief systems, those belief systems begin to disintegrate in the face of this type of energy. And it's your energy. And you don't need to shy away from that. Because people in this matrix world are used to any kind of truth and conviction and confidence must be arrogance, because we all saw how it all works. Like that guy also was fucking convinced about this, and look what happened, right? So everybody is skeptical about somebody having something that is legit, but that's another belief system that you don't need to give a fuck about. It does not matter. Continue sustaining that the mind of a diamond. Let it resonate. It does not matter, because that diamond will be attacked. You see, It will be tested. And if it's truly a diamond, it will not be moved. You will not be moved. You may need to alchemize a lot of things to keep tweak that thing, but that vibration in your mind is going to be that sparkling feeling of a diamond. Not the struggle, not the fight. Immovable, right? And all these belief systems, including the belief system that says like, oh, there's no fucking way this is the way, or whatever. Oh, there can't be. Now you come up with this framework, and now you're saying that this is going to save the world. Like, yeah, whatever, we saw this before, blah blah blah, whatever. This is still a belief system, and it's still equally invalid as all the other belief systems. Because while they're yapping this nonsense, there's nothing changed within you. It is something that is immovable because you have discovered to be immovable. It's not your opinion that it's, you see what I'm trying to say. So all of these belief systems, they're afraid of this because they are basically disappearing. It's like, how the fuck is something is real and immovable can exist? Because, like, you see what I'm trying to say. And especially a feminine egos, not just especially feminine egos, I shouldn't say especially feminine egos, but I mean it's obvious with the feminine ego, because what feminine ego really wants to do is not to help you as a man, but to destroy everything that is not real, to destroy all the belief systems, and sometimes it gets like gets used to like be able to destroy all the belief systems and emasculate men, and stuff. The men that don't get an access to to alchemy and whatnot, right? But then once in a while they meet somebody that is not movable, whether anybody likes this way or not. Somebody who brought this into this world, and that is a complete, then this type of woman goes through crisis. Now her feminine ego is getting demolished, you see. And in the end, everything is for the better. But anyway, this is all just a belief systems versus truth war that is going on. And you can see, you can't listen to somebody who speaks like really well and then say like, oh, these are great ideas, let me speak that. Nope. You're gonna have to find that thing in the same way that person found it. You're going to have to resonate at the same frequency. So these thoughts will come from within, and they just so happen to be the same as another person is thinking. Because otherwise, you're going to do the same old fucking thing and misinterpret what Plato said. And spread this quote throughout the entire world, confusing people that seeking of knowledge brings you to liberation, or to monad or whatever that thing is, which is the opposite. And so he definitely didn't say that. You see? And this is why I do this one-on-one sessions, these calibration sessions, for this particular reason. Because it doesn't matter, words don't matter unless there's resonance. This is what I'm trying to say. Okay? I think that was a good one. I mean, to me, at least, it gave me like a lot of peace and understandings. Like, oh, everything is bullshit in the mind unless it comes from the heart. Oh, yep. Okay, so then I can cut the noise out of my life completely. And it doesn't matter the noise, only the signal will survive. Fuck yeah. You know? You see, that's why the certainty is it's a natural phenomenon. This is not even up to me as a, as a mind or whatever. What kind of mind is being born out of that, soul? That's the mind is being born. You can't change that. So the certainty comes out naturally without needing to be defended externally. It needs to keep on, you have to keep on fueling it internally, but you don't have to say a word for the entire world to start changing. I think this is how the Renaissance happened, and I think we're going to see another Renaissance very soon. That's the law. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.